Warm winters and soggy summers. Well, the West Country weather certainly brings its own gardening challenges. But in this valley lies the most westerly of the Royal Horticultural Society gardens, Rosemoor, where a North Devon cow field has been transformed into one of the most popular and beautiful of all show gardens. Warm, wet air brought up by the Gulf Stream gives the West Country the mildest winters and highest rainfall in Britain. The lack of drought and frost means a longer and more productive growing season, but also brings a greater risk of disease. Most experts will tell you that the way to a successful garden is through the soil, and the key to good soil is compost. Trouble is, the art of compost making is both ancient and mysterious, and every gardener has their own way of doing it. And that applies equally to the RHS gardeners. This is hot composting on an industrial scale. 27 tonnes of garden waste, 13 feet high. King of the heap is Gary Preston. Now that's what I call a compost heap. I love the scale of this. But you've got to have quite a lot of material just to start a hot heap, haven't you?
You do. That's one of the key points. You must have a lot of material all at the same time. Small bits of material, irregularly, really you have struggled to make a hot heap.
Most of us at home have a cold heap which can be constantly added to and takes about 12 months to rot down properly. But in the world of professional gardening, there's no substitute for a hot heap. And here at Rosemoor, they make it steam. What sort of heat does that generate right in the centre there?
You're aiming for a temperature of about 50 to 60 degrees C. Now that will fry everything, weed seeds, bugs, microbes, the whole lot.
So that really effectively sterilises it, doesn't
Well, interestingly, there's a special set of bugs that like the heat, that come in. They actually do the work. If you put your hand in it, it'll be too hot to hold it there. So you'll know you're getting the heat.
The bigger your heap, the hotter it gets and the faster it decomposes. One this size will be ready to use in just 3 weeks. It's turned weekly to give material from the edge some time in the middle and to let off some steam. Large compost heaps can spontaneously combust if they're left to get too hot. These enormous heaps are used for the whole of the Rosemoor estate, but Gary keeps a secret stash just for the fruit and veg garden. Absolutely everything goes onto the giant heaps, but here Gary cooks up his special recipe. What exactly goes into it, ideally?
Anything organic you can use, and it's important to get the right mix. There's this carbon-nitrogen ratio that's important to get it right. It's about 30 to 1, 30 carbon and 1 nitrogen.
Too much dry woody carbon and your heap won't heat up. Too much green leafy nitrogen and you're left with a spludgy mess. And what about grass clippings from the lawn?
Well, this is always a problem because you can't just make a heap out of it on itself. It tends to go all soggy and you get this sort of treacly mass, which is no good for anything. Generally, you have to spread it around.
Paper and cardboard are pulped wood and rot well, but they can contain toxic inks which end up in the soil, so the RHS don't use them. Weeds have to be removed because unlike the giant heap, this one doesn't get hot enough to kill the seeds. Because it's cooler, a domestic size heap like this is only turned once a month.
This is the magic stuff. The sort of
finished product.
Yeah. Like
let me see.
Like the black gold, I suppose
Yeah,
you'd call
lovely,
it.
Isn't it?
I mean, this is where the life is in the soil, and this is what puts the life back in the soil.
In the wild, everything decomposes and is recycled. But as gardeners, we tend to tidy away the dead bits, so the nutrients plants take out of the soil aren't returned when it dies. Composting what we removed keeps the garden neat, but still puts the goodness back in as nature intended. At Rosemoor, they recycle everything. What's this?
Oh.
Got a gardener buried under there. Is anyone missing?
Gardeners don't normally retire till 65, but some of them we have to compost earlier, you know.
When they finish here, they don't retire, they get composted.
They get composted, yeah. We don't waste anything at Rosemoor, no.
Chris, it always seems to me extraordinary how you can really brutalise these laid hedges and then you get
life just springing back into them.
Yes, it's very much being cruel to be kind. They get very old and woody and open, and you've got to take them right down, start them off again, and even after hacking it back so hard, here we are just a few months later, the first shoots of new growth.
There it is. Now, one of the areas that I love here particularly is the vegetable garden, which is just immaculate, and it's quite young, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's still not 10 years since we built it and planted it. As it becomes more mature, it's going to get even better still.
And the other part of the garden, of course, that's very new is the rose garden.
It's one of the things that's characterised Rosemoor throughout. You know, it's astonishing how quickly things have grown, and although it's a challenging site, there's no doubt about it. Once you've got things working for you,
It works.
you know, it grows. Things grow beautifully here.